Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
They say your life changes in a moment, but they never warn you it might happen in a hospital hallway under flickering fluorescent lights that hum like dying wasps. I stood there, clutching the thin strap of my purse, while Dr. Langston's voice fell like bricks. "It's called acute myeloid leukemia," he said softly. "A rare form of bone marrow failure. His body has stopped producing blood cells. Without a transplant, we're running out of time." Stephen sat behind me, still in the hospital gown, his knuckles white around the armrest. His face didn't flinch. Mine cracked. "There has to be something else," I whispered. "Another drug, a trial, something." Dr. Langston shook his head slowly. "We've started transfusions, but they're temporary. A stem cell donor is our best hope now." And then the second blow came. "Does Stephen have any siblings? Biological family?" I turned. Stephen was staring at the floor. "I don't know," he muttered. "I grew up in state care. I've never known any family." The silence after that was louder than any scream I've ever made. We spent the next few days in limbo. Blood work, beeping machines, whispered prayers. I slept in a chair beside his hospital bed, trying not to break every time he winced in pain. His color faded, his strength drained by the day. My Stephen, the man who once lifted me onto his shoulders in the rain just to make me laugh, was vanishing. One afternoon, I stepped out into the hospital courtyard, trying to remember how to breathe, and that's when I heard them. Two nurses, laughing quietly over paper coffee cups. "You seen that guy in 4B, Carter?" "Yeah, looks just like that mechanic guy in Hot Springs. What's his name?" "Oscar something." My heart stopped. Oscar, Hot Springs, Stephen Carter, and someone who looked just like him. I didn't think. I ran, back through the hospital doors, back into the sterile room where Stephen lay pale and sleeping. I stared at him, then pulled out my phone, hands trembling. If there was even a chance, if someone out there shared that jawline, those eyes shared his blood, I wasn't going to sit back and wait for death. I was going to find him. Whatever it took. Hot Springs smelled like pine, motor oil, and rain-soaked pavement. The town looked like something out of a postcard someone forgot to mail. Quiet streets, peeling paint, and a diner where everyone knew each other's names. I hadn't told Stephen that I was leaving. I just packed a bag, printed his photo, and drove 4 hours with a prayer pressed tight between my ribs. I found the shop first, Fraser Custom Cycles. The door creaked as I stepped inside. Grease clung to the air, mingled with the sharp scent of metal. A man was crouched beside a Harley, hands deep in the engine, humming something low and broken. Then he stood. My breath hitched. He wasn't Stephen, but he could have been. Taller maybe, broader shoulders. But the eyes, blue-gray and tired, stopped me cold. "Can I help you?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. I stepped closer, holding out the photo with shaking fingers. "This is my husband," I said. "His name's Stephen. He's dying, and he looks just like you." The man stared at the photo for what felt like forever. "Where was this taken?" he asked finally. "Provident Hospital. Last week. He's got a rare bone marrow cancer. Doctors say his only hope is a matching donor." He exhaled sharply. "Fraser. That's my mother's last name. She told me when she gave up a baby when she was 17. Said he wasn't part of the plan. Never talked about it again." I blinked. "Do you think Stephen could be—" "I don't know," he interrupted. "But I'll take the damn test." His name was Oscar Fraser, and in that moment I didn't care if he was guarded or angry or if he never smiled again. He was the only sliver of hope I had. As I drove back to Nashville, a storm rolled in behind me, dark and thick as ink. I glanced in the rearview mirror and whispered, "Please, let this be real." Because if this failed, I knew what would come next. The waiting was worse than the diagnosis. Every minute dragged like molasses over broken glass. I checked my phone every 10 seconds, half expecting it to ring with either salvation or doom. 3 days after Oscar's blood sample was sent in, I got the call. "We ran a 23-marker sibling analysis," said the woman from the lab. "Oscar Fraser is Stephen's full biological brother. A perfect match." I dropped the phone, literally. It clattered onto the tile floor of the hospital corridor as I sank to my knees, sobbing with relief. A nurse helped me up, mistaking my collapse for despair. It was hope. Wild, burning, impossible hope. I rushed into Stephen's room, clutching the printed results like a lifeline. "Stephen," I whispered, brushing his hair back. "You have a brother." His eyelids fluttered open. "What?" "Oscar. His name is Oscar. He's your full brother, and he's agreed to donate." Tears leaked from the corners of his eyes. His lips trembled. "I'm not alone?" he asked, voice barely audible. "Not anymore," I said, pressing my forehead to his. But our joy was short-lived. Enter Dr. Erica Morrow, head of transplant coordination. She wore crisp heels and sharper eyes. "We'll need to delay," she said the next morning. "There's a flagged discrepancy in Oscar's records, an administrative issue, possibly adoption fraud." "What?" I snapped. "He just wants to save his brother's life. We cannot proceed without full verification. Legal protocols must be followed." Something about the way she said it felt personal. Later, I overheard her on the phone in the hallway. "No, he can't be part of this. Fraser's name was never supposed to surface again." I froze. There was more to this than red tape. Someone didn't want Stephen to find Oscar. And if Dr. Morrow was the gatekeeper, I have to break the gate. Because this wasn't just a fight for Stephen's life anymore. It was a fight against the shadows of secrets someone was desperate to bury. Oscar had driven 4 hours overnight to be at the hospital by dawn. He looked exhausted but determined, gripping a manila envelope with copies of his adoption records. "They said this would clear everything up," he told me, eyes darting toward the nurse's station. "I want to help. I need to help." We handed the documents to Dr. Morrow, who received them with her usual frost. "This will be submitted to the review board," she said without looking at either of us. "Expect a decision in 48 hours. 2 hours later, the documents went missing. "Impossible," I snapped at the clerk at the transplant desk. "We handed them to Dr. Morrow personally." I don't know," the young man stammered. "They were logged in, but now the file's blank." I raced down to the security office, demanding footage. After 2 hours of pleading, I watched the surveillance recording on a small screen. It showed Oscar handing the envelope to Dr. Morrow. A few minutes later, she was seen walking into her office and slipping the envelope into the shredder. I stared at the screen, numb with fury. "She destroyed it," I whispered. "She destroyed the evidence." "Who is she?" Oscar muttered beside me, jaw clenched. "Why would she do that?" Then it hit me, Morrow. That name. It had appeared in one of the foster reports I read about Stephen weeks ago. In a buried file marked Morrow Family, Confidential Transfer. Could she be connected to their separation? "She's not just the doctor," I said slowly. "She might have been involved in splitting you up." Oscar slammed his fist against the wall. "She's trying to erase it all again." "Not this time," I said. "We scan every paper, record everything, and I'll take it straight to the hospital board if I have to." A nurse suddenly appeared. "Mrs. Carter." Stephen's heart rate just dropped. "He's asking for you." I ran, because the truth was closing in, but so was death. Stephen lay pale and shivering, his fingers barely brushing mine. Machines beeped like distant thunder, and the room smelled like metal and fear. "Oscar's match is confirmed," I whispered into his ear. "He's your brother, Stephen. You're not alone." His lips moved, dry, cracked. I have a brother." Oscar entered quietly, eyes wide with emotion. "Hey," he said, voice cracking. "You look worse than I do." Stephen smiled faintly. "Guess we're even now." Dr. Morrow was gone. Reported, investigated. The hospital board rushed Oscar's donor approval after reviewing the security footage I had submitted. We didn't wait. The transplant was scheduled for dawn. Hours passed. I prayed. I paced. I remembered our wedding, his laugh, the way he always kissed the bridge of my nose when I cried. Then the surgeon came out. "The transplant went well," he said. "He's stable. We believe he's going to recover." I collapsed into Oscar's arms, sobbing with the force of every fear that had nearly swallowed us whole. Weeks later, Stephen opened his eyes wide, the color returning to his cheeks. "I feel alive." "You are," I smiled. "And you've got someone to blame for it." Oscar laughed from the doorway. "You're welcome, little brother." That night, we sat on the porch under the stars. Stephen, Oscar, and me. Family at last. The cancer had taken so much. But in its shadow, life gave something rare, the miracle of breath and the kind of love that fights to the last heartbeat.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.